The meeting of the Board of Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bobby, you can note that Commissioner LaRue is not here. Commissioner Younger and myself are. Order of business, we will have 2 executive sessions this evening. Prior minutes. Commissioner, did you review the minutes?
I did. Everything's good.
Okay. Minutes stand as submitted. Consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0. Any issues from persons not on the order of business? Okay, it's quiet out there. Okay, our first agenda item is the Fort Hays State University update. Tisa.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for the strong, committed partnership with the county and the university, and for welcoming to your meetings to give you a couple of updates. First of all, I wanted to let you know, if you didn't know, that we had a very strong legislative session. Our local legislators, I think, worked hard specifically for Fort Hays. Some specific information. We were very excited at the end of the session to learn that we were receiving a $5 million allocation for the Gross Memorial Coliseum to receive air conditioning. It was built in 1973. It's 50 years old, and a lot of times when we have events there, especially if it's getting to the warmer seasons, people say, why don't they turn on the air? It's because we don't have any. So we're excited. We think it'll probably take 2 to 3 years to realize and get the equipment and everything installed. But once we are able to utilize that year-round, we believe that we'll have upwards of a $1 million impact additional into this area. Also a one-of-a-kind resource for central and western Kansas. We also were approved for the Fort Hays State University Tech Incubator. That will work in alignment with our Department of Informatics as well as our Small Business Development Center. Initially, what we will do is we will have students doing micro internships to help small businesses with cybersecurity concerns where they may not have the resources to hire full tech companies to help them. And then as we evolve, we'll also hopefully be spinning off new cybersecurity and technical-oriented businesses. So we're very excited by the appropriations to further that work. Federally, we also did very well. We received a $1.2 million STEM teacher grant for getting STEM teachers in rural communities, which is obviously very important to us. We also received a $1.5 million grant for our Regional De-Escalation Center. That supplemented a $1.25 million, which was presented in November. And so you may be familiar with all of the escalation of some of the crime and conflict in communities. And our criminal justice system is now a Regional De-Escalation Center to teach police officers and other people techniques that will de-escalate situations. We're very excited about this. They're also starting to teach some of this online as well. And finally, really excited, there'll be a press conference officially at 5 p.m. this Friday in our library to announce the rather generous grant we received from the federal government, thanks to Senator Moran, to renovate our library, which was on schedule to be renovated moving forward. So you're going to see a brand new library renovation. We're excited about the De-Escalation Center and the STEM teachers for rural communities. I also left with you a little document on our campus work studies, or not campus, but just students working. I have heard over and over again in the community that students aren't working as much. I've heard on campus our students work so much. And so we hired the Docking Institute to do a study, and we'll start collecting trend data. But what we learned, we did that this spring as a baseline. We surveyed students living in Hays, Ellis, and Victoria, regardless of the mode of education, since that can fluctuate. I was surprised to find that 94% of our students are working. 61% of those students are receiving scholarships and grant assistance on top of the work that they're doing. 51% work in hourly on-campus jobs, 48% work off-campus hourly jobs, so it's pretty even split, but 10% work both on campus and off campus. I was interested to learn that 6% are making money selling items online, 4% are earning a living gaming, and 2% are producing social media content for revenue. Good for the community, 70% of our students are currently looking for a job or considering looking for a job. They agree or strongly agree that Hayes employers provide student-friendly work schedules. So that's a great thing for our students to know, especially when we hit the back-to-school picnic in August, and I know businesses will come to recruit for employment. The average wage expectation of our students interested in working off campus is $13.55 per hour. And when we surveyed, we found out that the average they are earning was $13.66. So that's a great bonus because they're getting slightly more than they were hoping for. Also want to talk to you a little bit about some of our on-campus enrollment indicators. Nothing's a done deal till the students arrive and show up. But we did show a fall to spring freshman retention rate of 93%, which is excellent. We are seeing our housing applications up on campus. Our honors college last year had 22 new freshmen. This year they're at 38 with a combination of 120 students in our honors college program, which is extraordinary. I also wanted to update you on our 13-state on-campus regional tuition rate, and that is our initiative to bring students to campus to come to Fort Hays. When we proposed this to the Board of Regents to get the on-state, the equivalent of the in-state rate for out-of-state students, that's the regional rate, we said it would take us 2 years with enrollment growth to break even. So for undergraduates coming here from those 13 states, our 2-year goal was 154 students, or 77 in year one. And as of right now, for applications, we have 91 increased, not 91 total, but 91 over last year from those 13 states. So we're ahead of that goal. And our graduate students, we had 27 or 14 for year one, and we are at 21. So if our yield rate continues to be strong, we should be on target to continue to bring students to Hayes for their undergraduate and the graduate college education. Finally, I want to just announce that on Tuesday, June 19th, actually I think it's July 19th, there is our annual summer meeting with the Ellis County and the city planning people, from fire to police to administrators and the Fort Hays community as well. We get together annually just to talk about what's going on in the county, what's going on in the city, and what's going on campus, and I always look forward to that meeting. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions, but those are some of our more recent updates.
Sounds like the college is just doing a lot, getting a lot done. I know when you talk about the Gross Coliseum, it brings back some memories. I worked for Pier Shippers at that time, and I helped dig holes out there. So I've done a lot of work. It's been a long time ago. Commissioner Neal, do you have any questions?
Just compliments for getting the AC in there. That's going to be a big, big plus. That's way past due, but thanks for doing that, whoever, you and
Yes.
your staff. And
Really, the thanks goes to our local legislators, Rick and Ken Rogers and Barb and Troy, Barb Wassinger and Troy Waymaster. Our 4 people have really worked hard for our institution, and we really appreciate it. But to get that is sweet. It's very sweet.
Commissioner Joe, any questions?
No questions, just a general comment that it's pretty obvious from the data presented that the student body is a
a very important and vibrant part of our community, so we're glad that the college is here for them to be a part of our community. Also, the kids who are making a living gaming, could I do that with Dig Dug or Space Invaders? Could they show me how to?
Yeah, and the social media influencer, are you a social media influencer these days, making lots of money?
Yeah, hair tips, hair
Great.
styling tips. So,
Fantastic.
But no, again, thank you for not just having the school and the community and the students that involved in the local community, but having a good school in the community. So.
Well, and it's all about relationships and community and your partnership and the cities as well, and making sure that our students feel welcomed here, feel good about being employed in businesses is also really important to keeping them here and getting them to graduate. So thanks for putting the welcome out to the county as well.
Thank you, Tisa.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Kansas Workforce One. Deb?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you all for having me this evening. I'm Deb Scheibler. I've been here before. I'm not sure you all were commissioners when I was here before, but thank you all for bringing me out. I'm going to just kind of tell you a little bit. I know that Darren shared with you 60 pages of documents today. I apologize for that. First of all, Kansas Workforce One is the local workforce investment board that covers 62 counties in central Kansas, central and western Kansas. We operate all the Kansas Works offices. You're fortunate to have a Kansas Works office right here in Hayes. Then we also operate multiple other federally funded grants, helping people look for work, go back to school if necessary, all those different things that help somebody get the next best job for them. So the agreement that you have, basically, just to kind of explain it, basically the governor has the ability to accept Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds into the state. He or she does so on behalf of all the counties in the state of Kansas or all the states across the U.S. The agreement basically makes sure that you all know about that agreement, about what we do in the different communities. It also gives you the ability to set on our chief elected official board to oversee what we do. And I believe you are the one that raised their hand or got their hand raised. One of the two, to set on the commission. We've had several commissioners from Ellis County in the past set on our board and have represented Ellis County very well, not only in making sure that we can continue to operate a workforce center here in Hayes, but also making sure that we are operating with those funds in a financially responsible way. So that's the agreement thing. But what I also wanted to do is just give you a little bit of an overview of what we've done so far this year in this county. It's been a little slow. Since we closed and had all the issues with COVID, it's been slow getting people to come back into our office. We're doing a lot of services still virtually, but we've had 246 residents of Ellis County come into our workforce center and get hands-on services this program year. We've also had 77 people enrolled in programs. And what that means is it's a little bit a step above what somebody that just comes into the center, they might get resumes, job search prep, things like that. But when they're enrolled in one of our programs, they're actually getting funds from our federally funded programs to help them look for work. And again, most of the time, we're sending them to school. To get a certification of some kind to help them get a job. Sometimes it's tuition, but sometimes it's transportation. If one of our students has to drive back and forth to school, sometimes the transportation is a bigger issue even than the tuition because of Pell Grants and things like that. We also do on-the-job training. We do that a lot here in this county. We've had a lot of employers be very interested in that. And what that is we pay the employer to train their worker. So we actually reimburse them a portion of their wages. We also do a lot of work experiences for youth. I loved hearing what Fort Hays State said about the kids out in the communities working. We need them working. There are so many jobs available across our local area. It's like kind of insane. 13,000 1,000 jobs are available right now in our local area. So we need everybody working. But what we hear from employers is our youth, particularly in high school, don't know how to work. They don't have those job search skills or those job prep skills and job keeping skills. So we do a lot of that work as well. We also work with employers. You'll see here we have 376 positions right now posted with employers here in Ellis County. And I gave you a little bit of a list of some of those employers. It's just an example of some of them. I also wanted to just kind of tell you and touch base on a few of our special programs that we do. We are a direct provider for Department of Children and Families for vocational rehabilitation. So we're helping people with disabilities get in the workforce. And many times those are, not only do they have a disability, but they also have recently been released from prison. So we're helping them get into the workforce and stay out of prison. Respect Works Pathway Home 2 is also a grant that is very specific to working with people who are incarcerated. We work with them 6 months prior to them being released, so they're ready, prepped to go back to work and be successful back in the community. And then Retain Works, I wrote it all out because I never remember what this acronym stands for. It's Retaining Employment and Talent Through Injury and Illness Network. That is helping people who either due to an injury or an illness are not able to return to the job that they've had. So we're either helping them with accommodations, assistive technology, or possibly even training to help them stay on the job and not stay at home. We also have a work-based learning contract. That this year was just approved by our legislator. We're very excited about that. We'll be providing job shadows and work-based learning opportunities for students across our local area. We had done a pilot project, and we only had 7 in our entire area. We only had 7 school districts that were able to participate. Now with the funds that we received from the state legislator, we can expand that to any school that's interested. And we're hoping that the schools here in Hayes will jump on board. And then lastly, we have a special contract. We've had a great relationship with Northwest Kansas Community Corrections for a very long time. We provide additional assistance to them, to the community corrections officers, to help their customers, if you will, get a job and stay in a job and stay out of trouble. So, but that is my report for what we're doing right here in Ellis. Does anybody have any questions?
You do perform a lot of vital services for the community. I think the last time I heard, our unemployment rate in Ellis County was like 1.2%.
Yep.
How many people would that be if we're 1.2%?
Oh, I wish I knew that off the top of my head, but it's basically, they call that full employment.
Correct.
Yeah, so we need everybody that is not working to be working. And we need those folks that are maybe underemployed, that need a little bit of skilling up to get to take on another job or take on more tasks. We all are wearing more hats than we normally do because of the economy and because of the work situation. So those are some of the things that we do as well to try to tackle that and help that for sure.
Sure. Commissioner Joe, any questions?
To put a number to that, we were at a Kansas County Commission Association meeting recently, and the Arnold Group did a presentation where instead of giving you the percentage, they gave you the actual raw number of active UI cases broken down by county. Ellis County had a whopping 10.
Right.
10. Now, that's 10 people actively looking. That
Right.
does, like you said, that doesn't take into account underemployed or those who just gave up looking for one reason or another.
Or people with disabilities. The people that come out of corrections facilities are not included in that, but we need them all working.
Because they can't file.
Right.
And along those lines, to echo what Commissioner Butch said, I can't say enough good things about your local office here.
Thank you.
In a previous role, I've worked with Jason quite a bit on helping place parolees with in employment. Julie and Connor are just great to work with the other programs. So a lot of good work is being done
thank
there
you.
to kind of bridge that gap that a potential applicant needs to bridge in order to feel comfortable even applying in the first place sometimes.
Well, thank you.
So-
I will definitely pass that on to them.
So, yeah,
They
they're
will love
good-
hearing that.
good people.
Absolutely. We have big-hearted people working here in Hayes for sure.
Commissioner Neal?
has gone through your 60 pages.
Sorry.
I was impressed with the OJT. I'm glad that's coming back. Hopefully it'll come back a little more, that we can get that, including the students from the college.
Absolutely.
And that has a lot, that give you a lot of common sense in life.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
I appreciate that, Deb, so, yeah,
Great. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, do I hear a motion for this?
Sure. I'll move to approve the Workforce One agreement and have the chair sign.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. And Darren, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Cottonwood Extension District update. Donna?
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. To Darren.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners, and for Darren for extending an invitation to kind of bring you up to date. I'm Donna Krug, I'm the District Director, and also do programming in the area of Family and Consumer Sciences. I am housed in the Great Bend office. Our district has been in place for 5 years, so I know I've visited a few times, but I think some of the faces are new here on the commission. So just kind of wanted to bring you up to date and share with you who is on our team currently and the fact that we are in the process of adding some new team members. With me tonight, I have Stacy Campbell. He'll come up in just a minute to share a little bit. Stacy is our agriculture and natural resource agent here in the Hayes office. And sitting beside him is Tamara Robertson, a Fort Hayes graduate, so it was really fun listening to the report. Tamara was hired in February to fill, because we had a retirement, she was hired as a 4-H assistant and is filling that role quite well. And we also have Taylor Meyer. She wasn't able to come to this meeting, but she is serving as our summer intern in the Hayes office. So, and then we have Teresa Mice, our office professional. So if you heard those names, we're down by 3 agents. So we've got a 4-H and youth position, a family community wellness position, and also a horticulture position for the district. Those are in the process. We'll have interviews June 28th and hopefully fill 2 of those, and then interviews later in the summer. So hopefully the next time I come to visit, I'll be introducing new people, new team members. In our Great Bend office, we also have Michelle Barron, a 4-H and youth agent. We have Alicia Bohr, an agriculture agent. Also Brenda Walton, our office professional, and we also have a summer intern. So we still have a lot of people picking up the pieces and doing the work that needs to be done. I've given you a folder that has the most recent, what we call our monthly progress report. So it goes from about mid-April to mid-May. And then also, I hope that you're seeing online, we have an online newsletter, and it's called Cottonwood Connection. So I've given you a hard copy of that to just kind of show you what it is. And then if you don't see it, if it doesn't come through your email, just go to our Cottonwood website, and I hope you'll find it there. So just lots of things happening. You know, in summertime, our work sort of gears more towards youth. We have, you know, obviously the county fair coming up, but also lots of summer engaging activities for non-4-H youth as well. And so that's kind of where our efforts are at this moment. But hopefully you can see from the front cover that we are tackling the 5 grand challenges. To me, community vitality is something that each of our agents really takes pride in and makes sure that we are doing things and are visible out in the communities. So, Stacy, you want to come up and share a little bit about some of the things he's been doing?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Hello, Commissioners. Stacy Campbell, the, as Donna said, Agriculture Natural Resource Agent for the district. Just going to a few things mentioned, we don't have a horticulture agent right now in position, but myself and also Alicia Bohr are working to try to still answer people's phone calls and go make home visits. I was out this afternoon making a couple of home visits. And also our master gardeners are doing a good job of helping us too. They're coming in a couple times a week and helping answer some of those calls that they can. And so that's been a big help. And Donna had mentioned Tambra Robertson, a Fort Hays State graduate. She graduated in December with an animal science degree, and from Dodge City, a Ford County 4-H'er. So she's been a tremendous help to me and Teresa. As Donna mentioned, we got to really get geared up for the fair, so we're kind of pedal to the metal for that. And also the other summer intern is helping us. And on the way over here, I got to thinking, I have the annual wheat plot field day every year. We just had it last Wednesday, and I have never thought to send you guys a formal invitation. So you have a standing invitation to come to that each year if you'd like. It's usually the end of May, 1st of June, but I will try to maybe remember to send an invitation out to y'all next year if you'd like to come out and see what that's about. And if you can't quite make it, we have a meal afterwards about 7:30. You're welcome to come to that. We always have plenty of food. We always have a 4-H club usually that fixes the meal for that, and actually it's a fundraiser for them. The money goes to them, and they fix us a nice meal. So we did have that this year. Again, we've moved it. It's been up north of Victoria for a long time with Norbert and Leon Kuhn, and they kind of gracefully, I don't blame them, bowed out. I mean, they'd done it long enough, and so Neil Gottschalk did it this year southwest of town, and so it seemed to have went well. Kind of a different area, so we had different folks there, and so yeah, you guys are always welcome to that if you'd like. It's usually, like I say, end of May, 1st of June. I'll have to try to send an invite to you next year. So that's all I have.
Do you have any questions? I know I went to his wheat plot tour when it was in Barton County. It was early in the morning, though. It was like 8 in the morning. But those are always really interesting. You learn a lot. So, any questions that you have about our Cottonwood Extension District?
I don't have any questions, but just keep up the good work. You're
Okay.
going to have your challenges ahead of you with getting everything ready with the fair and everything. So
That's right.
it's a busy time for you.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you
Commissioner
again for
Neal?
your time.
Yes, I just, Stacy said we didn't know about the wheat plot.
Mm-hmm.
If you come here earlier, you can visit us and let us know.
Oh, okay.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
Very good.
Commissioner Joe?
But just to thank you and your organization for all that you do, especially with this being a busier time of year for you. We're all looking forward to the fair, and
Sure.
you guys, of course, are a huge, huge part of that. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for your support as well.
you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next agenda item is the case management system purchase. Robert?
Good evening, everyone, Commissioners. Name is Robert Anderson, Ellis County Attorney, for the record. As the agenda item states, and I've forgotten what I've all written in there by now, but I'm here to discuss with you a new case management software system for my office. Our current case management software system, what we call KPS, or Kansas Prosecutor System, is no longer going to be an option moving forward. They are closing down support for that particular program, and so while it may be, while an office may be able to still run it on their computers, if there's any issues, there's no support for it. So it's essentially dead at some point in this year, is my understanding, but they haven't given a firm sundown date. So with that in mind, and I've known this since taking office, we've been in the process of looking for a replacement. We started that journey by signing on board with the Tyler Technologies product, their attorney manager product. A lot of other departments in the county went with the Tyler product. As I understand it, a lot of those other departments are satisfied and really enjoy the products that they have implemented and received. In my time working with Tyler and viewing the product that they somewhat had built in Riley County, I have zero confidence in that program. I have no intention of moving forward with it. And so that led me to have to find some alternative. And in speaking with many other county attorneys, I was led to prosecutor by carpel, PBK. And this, along with some others, but PBK is certainly by far and away the leader in my opinion. This product, it looks really great. It's been implemented in close to a third of all of the Kansas counties. A really great thing about that is there's all these counties have already been through this process. These are counties that I can and have reached out to discuss what do you like about this, what don't you like about this, how did the onboarding process go. Some of these counties made the switch from the program we currently have to this new program, and so this company is familiar with how to transfer the data over and get it converted, which is great. The only real complaint I got, and this was specifically from Finney County, was that there wasn't an interface between the program and our Kansas e-filing system, but they're in the process of building that interface now, and they believe it'll be done within the next 10 months. So really the only complaint I got is hopefully going to be solved before we even launch, which would be fantastic. Ultimately, this program, it really kind of catapults us into, this century, really. It will enable us, if we so choose, to go paperless. They have interfaces built that would work from pulling data from law enforcement, in particular the Tyler program that they just transferred to. They've got that interface built. So essentially what I'm getting at is it would eliminate this duplicate data entry. Law enforcement enters data on their end, then they send over paper. We enter that same data into our system. We have to copy that same paper, send it over to Defense Counsel. We have to enter that same data into our eFlex filing system. This case management software system with the selected interfaces eliminates all that extra redundant work, which I think is really important, mostly because I think in the past there's been an argument that this office that I run doesn't have the resources to get to all the reports, right? And the prior solution has always been we need more staff, we need more attorneys, we need more people. I think this software system, if it delivers, and I think it will because I have viewed it, I've demoed it, I've talked to lots of people, if it delivers, it allows me to get the most out of the staff that I already have versus adding on more staff, right? So all signs point to this is the right choice. I've done the homework. This fiasco, as I'll call it, with Tyler has made me come into this new search with some very skeptical eyes. And so I'm skeptically enthusiastic about this new software. The costs. The upfront costs are going to be in upwards of $90,650 for the first year. That's the programs, the interfaces, the training, the data conversion, everything. It may not be quite that much. I've told the representative that I refuse to pay for any of the interfaces until they're up, running, working, proven, and I know that we're satisfied with them. So I don't know exactly what the upfront cost will be, but I expect them to be less than $90,650, but that is the absolute max that will cost. It will also come with the cost of having to outfit my office with new scanners. The scanners that we have don't work with this software for whatever reason. I'm not an IT person, I don't understand it, but I have consulted with IT and they tell me that's what we need to do. So probably need about $10,000 for that sort of thing. Additionally, I know the court and my office share a server. Again, things I don't understand. I don't really understand what a server does. Lori tried to explain it to me, but I still don't fully get it. I've talked to her about replacing that. It looks like the anticipated cost of replacing that shared with the district court is going to be about $7,000. So upfront costs for the first year, given scanners, the software, everything all inclusive, maybe somewhere around $105,000. at the absolute most. The good news is that I have this money. I don't need to request any additional funds from the commission. I have two sources where I can draw from. Fund 16, of course, I have approximately $100,000 in that fund, and this would certainly be purchases that fall under the permissible purchases out of that fund. As I understand it, I don't necessarily need the commission's approval, but like the last time I was here, it makes sense to me to at least come here and discuss these things and even, quote, get your blessing before making large purchases like this, because I think it's important that we communicate and work together. And so Fund 16, which would have essentially all the money I need, is available. I don't want to deplete that fund completely. My secondary source of funds is our trust account. I've talked about this almost every time I'm here. This account is funded by diversion fees and civil forfeiture proceeds. This account, what I feel like we just spend and spend and spend out of it, giving to community organizations, training law enforcement, buying law enforcement new equipment, all that kinds of stuff. That account started at about $30,000 when I took office. We're just over 60,000 now, so even though we spend, like, it's still growing, which is great news. So between those two accounts, I know that I can cover the costs of all of this transition into this new software and hardware that we need. I don't need the commission to transfer any funds. I don't believe that I need approval, but I am here to let you know that that's probably the decision I'm going to make, and unless unless I get some major concerns or questions that cause me to doubt my decision, that is probably how I will proceed.
Mr. Anderson, if you get this software, when would it be fully functional in your office?
Approximately a year from now. I'm not entirely certain of all of the, once you say, yes, we'll do this, they kind of give you a contract with certain deadlines to meet, to do certain things. Mm-hmm. In discussing this with the rep, it sounds like it would take about 10 to 12 months if today was the day that I said, yes, let's do this, let's mm-hmm. draw up the contracts and go.
Well, it's obvious you're going to need some kind of software, so I guess you know what you think is best and for your office. I'll support you with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Neal, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Anderson, like you said, is a blessing to do this. That's just good communication for our whole community. And as far as on the training, is that going to be OJT, or is that going to be computer back and forth, or is it?
So the training they provide, they actually send out a rep for, I think, like a 2-week, 3-week period, and intensively train your staff for that period of time. And then they provide support, a hotline, things like that from there on out. There's talks about at least Trego County, if not maybe other counties in our district, Brooks, Gove, coming along with us, and that would save them cost by doing their training here in Ellis County. But yeah, that is how that would work. I don't know that the training is really going to require much technical assistance. I think this program is going to be very similar to what we currently have. It's going to look a lot different. It's going to do a lot more. But I think my staff has a general knowledge of how to operate a case management software system. It's just this is one with better bells and whistles.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Joe?
Oh, like you, sir, I'm cautiously optimistic that the new software will increase efficiencies in your office, and really when you're swapping out ongoing costs with the current case management system that you're using, it seems to be a wash. So I'm just appreciative that you kind of came in and gave us this additional information so we weren't surprised by it later.
Certainly.
In case something came up.
Well, I will certainly do what I can to make sure I don't run either Fund 16 or my trust fund dry. I believe in having funds available for a rainy day, so I will proceed with caution. I always try to be a good steward of the money I've been entrusted with, and so I will certainly proceed in that fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is Assistant County Attorney job descriptions.
Job description update.
Darren?
Excuse me, Darren Myers, County Administrator. As you're aware, back on May 2nd, the County Commission approved some job changes for the County Attorney, Mr. Anderson, in regards to their pay. And he had brought some good information forth about comparisons of, as well as job offers that they're trying to steal as Assistant County Attorneys from him. And at that time, he gave a detailed explanation about what he needed to do at what levels to increase his salaries for those Assistant County Attorneys. And with that, he has since made those changes. Nothing with the job descriptions themselves, as in the details of job duties, responsibilities, and such has changed. But with the pay change, we did change it from a job classification of 117, or grade scale of 117 to a 119. So on the attached job description that you see within your packet, that's the only change, and we're just asking that the commission approve those just to keep the paperwork clean.
Okay, seems pretty simple. Commissioners, do you have any questions or concerns? Do I hear a motion?
Yep, I'll move to approve the attached update Assistant County Attorney job descriptions.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Okay, the next agenda item is the Cathedral Road cost share. Brandon?
Good evening, Commissioners. Brenda McKay, Public Works Director. It's nice to actually come up here for once and say that we got money instead of asking for all the money. That part will come a couple minutes later when we're done with this, the asking for money part. But, so this year, we applied the spring cost share of 2022 for Cathedral Avenue to finish off the project from 6th Street down to Old 40. Did not think we'd get selected because, to my knowledge, no county has been selected year over year. And talking with contractors, that's also hasn't happened to their knowledge. So they decided to do it. So thank you. We got more money, but I got to change some of my stuff in my 5-year plan to move it around to make sure we have the funding available for it. This will basically complete the project that's started right now, that's currently underway in Victoria there. Go back underneath the railroad bridge and tie back in to everything current there. Be nice. My wife won't be happy with me because that's the way she takes the kids to school. She already yelled at me about Cathedral being torn up. Till summer now, so she'll be all right. But for that, we'll receive $700,000 in funding. The rest the construction of it will be on the county, as well as the preliminary engineering and construction engineering inspection. So about $475,000 for construction, and then $250,000 for engineering and design work.
Okay.
Are there any questions on that?
When is that road supposed to be completed?
The current project this fall, and then there's a tentative letting date of June of 2023 for the southern part of the project. That can be moved up. That's just the tentative date they gave us. So I'll be back here in a few months with the KDOT agreement.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner
Nope,
Joe?
it'll be a good improvement over there. We've
Yeah.
got partial, might as well finish it out, and we lucked out. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Right where I'm at here. Okay, the right-of-way obstructions. Brendan?
Yes, sir. So as you saw during our road tour, we've got a lot of obstructions in the right-of-ways, what you call them, trees, oversized mailboxes, head walls, parked cars, reflectors, 2x4s that people put in the ground. We have a duty to remove those. They create hazards for the traveling public and are hazards for us to do our job safely and effectively. When you put 2x4s and rebar along the edge of the road, we can't reshape the road there. Then the road will flatten out and it's worse for everyone, but we didn't touch that person's grass. Same thing with the reflectors. My equipment can easily go through them. The problem is the backlash from that. And that's why I'd like your support in order to follow the statutes and do my job safely. We've got issues with farming, parked cars, trailers, and legally, cars, trailers can be there for a brief period of time. It's the ones that are left there abandoned or set there for a week. And then the farming, it closes up the ditches over time. A lot will say it's to stop the weeds going in their field, which is fine, but it plugs our ditches, and now the water goes on the roadway, and now the roadway acts as a ditch. And then the roadway's in bad shape, and we get the calls that our roadway's not good. It also affects the safety of the traveling public because it reduces their sight lines for animals coming out of the fields and also at intersections to see cross traffic. And if you look through, if you had a chance to look through those 3 attachments, you'll see that there's actually some pictures of Ellis County in there. That was taken from my predecessor, Bill Ring, who's in the audience. Those things are still there. And I don't have the staff to address every problem tomorrow. It's going to take time. My suggestion would be, as projects involve these areas, that's when we address them, because there's just too much to take on right now. You give me 20 more people and all the equipment I could need to do it, it would still take many years to have everything complete. And trees grow every year, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it.
Brendan, with some of these issues, and I think when we run on our road tour, we all observed a lot of this, what you're talking about, and we were concerned. With some of these issues, are you going to send out notifications to people to allow them to move their obstructions on their own?
Yes, sir, I can.
Mhm.
It's just, we want the backing of the commission for this.
I
'Cause
I support you 100%.
Okay.
Commissioners?
So do I.
Yeah, I have no issue
For the safety.
supporting you. It's public
Safety
safety.
aspect.
It's by statute. We're singing the same song. It's
Okay.
great.
which is, sometimes people are going to be upset because
Sure.
they've spent the time or they've manicured their lawn. Unfortunately, I have to pull the shoulders in order to keep the roadway safe and travelable for everyone. That grass grows back. We don't completely cut it out, but it may look ugly or ugly compared to how they envisioned their yard to be. I get calls then. I'm sure you guys get calls on it. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page on this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if we ever, or if I ever get a call where it's just, hey, just wanted to tell you in general, I'm happy. Things are going great. I'll let you know.
Good. We don't get many of those. People don't generally call us because the roads are nice and not dusty and not muddy. So
Yeah, you
those
get,
few times we get them, they're,
like we had, on the road tour, like we had talked, them, and especially in the winter, the trees shade everything and freeze, thaw, freeze, thaw. We get them trees out of the way, that'll
yeah.
help improve our roads some,
Mhm.
because we're behind, so
Yep. Like right
everybody
now,
knows that.
we got all this rain in the county. About Vineyard South is already dusty.
Mhm.
I've got barricades and cones set out for washouts in the northeast part of the county because water's gone over the road in spots. So we're dealing with Mother Nature.
Sure.
There's things we can do to make it better.
Well, we'll support you, Brendan.
All righty, well, thank you.
The next agenda item is the tree shear purchase. Brendan?
It's probably getting tired of hearing me talk. I only got one more after this, I promise. Now comes the fun stuff, asking you for money. So, like I said, along with that, even if you gave me 20 people, I can't do everything. But what I can do is utilize tools to do our job safer and more effectively. Currently, right now, when we trim trees, we're out there with chainsaws, 3 or 4 guys on the ground, and then skid steer or loader to pick up the limbs and pick up the trees. What we'd like to do is pick up a shear for our excavator. This would allow us to have one operator out there running the equipment, not 3 or 4 on the ground, and that machine can pick up the pieces it cuts. So as it cuts them, so it can just load it right into a truck. So we've got less guys on the ground dealing the high grass, ticks, out in the sun, and in traffic's way. This attachment would allow us to be more effective with our trimming. So we'd be faster, we'd need less people to do it, and we can get more accomplished in a day. The other option on here is a feller buncher style attachment for a skid steer that they can modify. It is a little bit cheaper. The concerns I have with that, and my staff did, is it needs a straight section of tree or branch to grab onto first before the shear can come off. And it's a little bit thinner shear. I don't expect it to hold up as long. So if there's no straight part of the tree, I mean, we've got a lot of cedar trees and stuff like that that grow along the roadside. we'd have to cut those branches off with a chainsaw, and if we're already there cutting the branches off, might as well just use this chainsaw. And that attachment wouldn't be as beneficial to our department because it only works in certain cases. And it's designed for a skid steer. It's not going to hold up to the abuse that I think that it would face. The tree shear from Dymax is similar to a metal shear. That blade is 2.5 inches thick. You can break it. I've seen it break, but it takes a lot of abuse before it will break. And usually that was operator error the time I saw it break. They tried to twist as they were cutting. Basically, a big pair of scissors at the end of the excavator, so it can reach out further than our chainsaws can, and it keeps our employees away from the danger zone from falling limbs and trees. But, any other questions you guys have on it? Talk to
Well,
them.
I think we should be going this way because it's a employee safety issue. You don't have all these chainsaws running around. They're dangerous.
Yes, sir.
You have less people out there doing the job, so get the job done faster. And there is a lot of trees need to be sheared.
Yes, sir.
So I would support the purchase. Commissioner Neal?
I'm going to echo that. I'm all for the safety aspect of it. Let's start with this one, and as we move forward, then maybe we can look at one for the skid steer for the smaller saplings that come up in the years to come.
So this can cut anything all the way down to saplings. That's what we used it for.
Okay.
The next equipment I'd ask for, because we could leave this on the wheeled excavator, would be a tracked excavator to allow it to get down and
okay.
ditch it better. But that'll be months from now.
Okay.
Commissioner Joe?
Well, I'm glad to know you'll be coming back and asking for more later.
Oh, always.
That's always great. No, echoing what my coworkers / other commissioners said, it's safer for our employees, it's more efficient, it's also budgeted, so it just makes sense to do it.
And it looks here you'll be wanting to request this from the ARPA funds.
Yes, sir. After talking with Darren, he believed that there would be funding available still in there.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the Dynamax tree shear attachment from Foley Equipment for $39,000.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
you.
Did you get Bobby a PO?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Then we have the Public Works job description changes. Brendan?
Yes, sir. My last one for tonight, I hope. Unless you like to hear me talk. Another thing we discussed on the road tour was need for succession planning and employee growth and development within the departments, so road and bridge and noxious weed. So currently, right now, underneath the road and bridge supervisor, there's foreman. There's bridge foreman, road foreman, shop foreman. Underneath them is heavy equipment operators and truck drivers. There's no room for a truck driver to, if they get their CDLA and they come with us to a B, there's no step for me to give them to reward that growth. Same thing with training. We don't have dedicated trainers. And with our heavy equipment operators, we've got the Daves, the 3 Daves who are road and bridge foremen, and then Kurt, and they all have 30-plus years of experience with the county. They're not going to be here. Oh, and I'd love to have them here in 30 years, but realistically, they still won't be here in another 30 years. We need to start training up the next group of foremen and supervisors. So the idea with these changes to the job descriptions would be there would be there's room for growth to develop in employees so they can have some management experience and training experience prior to when a foreman job opens up and they go from just running equipment to now running equipment and also directing employees how to do the job safely and do it correctly and properly. Similar thing with noxious weed. There's spray tech. Spray tech, Tech 1, anyone can spray underneath Gary's license, but there's times when he's going to be gone, and the spray tech is unable to spray the county right-of-ways or out in pastures, whereas a spray tech 2, they would have the requirement to have their own spray license, and they could spray even when Gary's not available. So both of these 3 job description changes that I'm requesting, it have the room for growth for employees, and have the room for growth for our succession planning, and it also would bring us up to more competitive with our fellow counties and out in our district. We're a bit underpaid for trucks position and spray techs. I've got 2 truck driver positions open now. I've got 0 applications for them. Hope is that this would help increase applications to us and employee retention. We've just lost another one of our employees because of pay. We can't meet what the private sector does in pay, but we should at least be able to meet what our neighbors are paying there in their counties for positions, because it's really hard when you lose a good employee to another county, and I hope we don't have that happen.
Well, I think it's important that we do look at this issue because we do need succession planning. There's no question about that. That's vitally important. And to give a new employee an incentive that they can move upward in the organization is just as important. So, you know, I will support you with this, Brendan. Commissioner Joe?
Yeah, I'm all for anything that's going to give a more defined career path for our employees and encourage them to stay longer so that they can enjoy that career path. And the changes in the job descriptions in the packet mirror some of the things we've talked to up to this point. So I'm certainly supportive of it.
Commissioner Neal?
So as right now, has there been any like cross-training going on? I mean,
Yeah,
gradually?
Yes, we do that as is, but to
Okay.
make it more defined and have it in the job description, so it's not, well, that's not in my job description. I haven't heard anyone say that in my office. I hope no one would, but this would give us the backbone, and it would allow the employee retention because they can see a path to go. If they come in without a CDL, they start as a truck one. They excel. They like working for the county because we have good benefits and good place to work. They get their CDLA now. Well, in order to get their CDLA, we have to have trainers. By the change from the federal motor carriers back here this last February, you have to go take classroom behind the wheel and have registered trainers. We can either pay NCK Tech $6,000 for them to do it, or we can do it in-house with our own staff. And having that in-house would benefit us because then it fits our schedule. It can be, the training can go on while we're doing work. We won't have to send someone away for classroom training and weeks behind the wheel. They can work and see how we do it and learn from our employees safe maneuvers, safe job safety practices. Because operating a dump truck in a county position is different than operating an over-the-road truck. We have different hazards we look for, different hazards we run into. So I feel I think it'd be more beneficial for my employees to learn doing the job we do every day, day in and day out, versus learning from a school. Not that it would be bad, but it would be more relevant to their current path. So basically, it's a way to work up and a way to help train the next group of leaders for the community departments.
So again, now for the third time, this OJT, so it's good, but that's why I was asking if we were doing it now before our senior workers.
That would be my
leave
hope,
us.
to bring that so they can pass on their knowledge to, 'cause I'm like a sponge. I learn as much as I can, but I need some people in the wings to help take some of that.
I'm very supportive of that.
Commissioners, do I hear a motion?
Sure. I move per, whoops, wrong one.
We can buy another one, but I need another excavator to get that.
No, let me back up. I had scrolled to the next item. Sorry about that.
On page 89.
Yep, I got it. So, that one's easier. That one's shorter, but yes, I move to approve the 6 attached job descriptions for the Public Works Department.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. I'll stop bothering you now.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is fireworks resolution 21-11. Darren?
Get down to the right page here. And just for clarification on that last agenda item, that is giving Brendan the permission to go ahead and make the immediate changes to the truck drivers' positions, promote them from a grade 104 to 105, and then with the other positions, they will be promotable positions, so they'll have to go through who actually wants to apply to be not necessarily promoted, but go through the process of do they meet the qualifications, and then Brendan can sit down and give the ones that maybe don't, give them some career path objectives on how to get there and promote the ones that we can as soon as possible, hopefully by July. And then for both the heavy equipment operator, the truck driver, and the spray technician is currently open in the weed department. So Gary's got a couple options that he's working with there, but hopefully we can get most of those changes in place so that way come the end of July, when we're also wrapping up our budget process, we can have most of those personnel transactions taking place so we can properly budget their personnel salaries for their department.
Mm-hmm.
The discharge of fireworks, as the county is aware, several years ago, the resolution was passed to ban the sale and the use of fireworks in the unincorporated areas of Ellis County. However, each year the commission has a option to be able to lift the ban on the discharge of fireworks around the 4th of July holiday. This year, as well as the previous years, we're suggesting that if the commission were to relax that portion of the resolution, we do that in cooperation with the city of Hayes to eliminate confusion as well, for law enforcement on who's shooting off what fireworks and what time and what days. And those days that would be allowable are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of July from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. each day. Last year, we did not have any fireworks-related incidents in the areas of Ellis County, the unincorporated areas of Ellis County, and the year before that, we only had one. I say that knocking on wood that nothing happens this year, but accidents do happen, and we are still a month away. We've had the recent blessing of some moisture, but that could change, as well as temperatures could increase to start drying the surface out again. But that decision is up to the commission. I'd be willing to stand for any questions.
Yes, does the fire chief support this resolution?
It's kind of a loaded question because, in the eyes of public safety and trying to keep our community safe, the easiest thing you can do is limit unsafe acts, because accidents do happen no matter if you allow them or you don't allow them. But I would be supportive of your decision if you did relax the resolution, and because accidents do happen, and people with the best of intention doing the best of things with hoses out, buckets of water, extinguishing them. You can't foresee everything happening, and things do happen, and we do have numerous medical related incidents every year, but the fires seem to be very minimal over the last couple of years.
Okay. Commissioner Joe, any questions?
Well, I don't think we're going to talk anybody into using confetti to celebrate, so, but yeah, I'd be fine with relaxing it so long as between now and then, we continue to get moisture and we have a plan in place in case an accident does happen.
Okay. Commissioner Neal?
Yep, I will echo that same thing. As long as we've got moisture, I'm supportive, but
The best way why we try to get this out a month in advance is we have a lot of vendors that invest a lot of money in the fireworks stands. I've actually had a discussion with one of them, and it's amazing. They buy a lot of I don't know if the market where most of the fireworks are made, but they're overseas in the China area, and the shipping containers that they're having to pay. I think he said they went around $15,000 a container to over $40,000 a year to ship those containers over this year. So given as much notice that we're going to allow the fireworks, gives them the opportunity to make sure that they're going to invest on those shipping containers and the shipping, so that way we don't backtrack on them and change anything. So there's a risk there for those vendors.
Okay, do I hear a motion for this?
yeah, I'll move per resolution 2018-5 to relax discharge portion of this resolution in the unincorporated areas of Ellis County on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th from the hours between 10 a.m. and 11 p.m.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Okay, the county commission budget for 2023. Darren?
Well, as the commission has seen in your agenda packet, is the Department for the General Fund, which is the county commissioner's budget. And with the potential of some changes coming next year, I wanted to give the commission an opportunity to give myself some direction on how you'd like to proceed with budgeting. The biggest change within that is, as the commissioner is aware, there's a petition going around to change the county commission seats from 3 to 5. And per our county resolution, the way the commissioners were paid or determined by that resolution. So with adding 2 more commissioners to the county budget, and 2 more chairs, some iPads, some little incidentals that would be added within the budget to be able to purchase those next year. Just the salaries alone are just over $104,000, and then we'll have another couple thousand, 5,000 or so in incidental pieces of equipment that we have to buy to accommodate 2 more commissioners. And then there's some line items in there that we budget that, we expect a couple commissioners to attend, like Little KAC out in Kansas City, or the State Kansas Association of Counties Conference, the County Commissioners Conference. So there's a little bit of funds to accommodate a couple more commissioners going to that, because if we do have more commissioners, they're going to need some knowledge and some training and going out and getting some experience in county commissioner schools and such like that. So the numbers that you see before you are kind of indicative of what we would expect to see of an increase on the county commissioner budget. So I just wanted to see how the commissioner felt, if we want to budget for it, or just...
Well, from the information you sent the commission, and my perspective on this is, I would like to see us budget for it, because it serves 2 purposes. And the first purpose would be the electorate needs to know what it's going to cost them should they choose a 5-person commission. They need to know that. The second reason is, if we don't fund it and we get a 5-person commission, now you're going to have at least 3 and possibly 4 people who don't have a clue about county governance, trying to figure out where they're going to come up with another $105,000 or $6,000. And I think that's a precarious position to be in. So it's better if we put it in the budget up front. If we don't need it, it'll just revert back to the general fund and can be used in upcoming budgets from 2024, that sort of thing, reallocated, or just use this as cash against a budget expenditures. So that's kind of where I am on this. Commissioner Neal?
My feeling's the same. Like I say, we better budget for it just in case. So who knows? They may want to come up with 20 of them up here yet. I don't know.
Who knows?
So we better do something for it.
Commissioner Joe?
Well, I'd rather be ready than not ready. So, if we have the plan in place to fund it should it occur, that's a better position to be in than not. So I'd rather go ahead and budget for it. And like you said, if we don't need those funds, why, I'm sure we'll find something else to use them for.
Okay. Now, the other item on here is another $5,000 for the Kansas Natural Resources Coalition. I have given this some thought. I don't see any reason why we should increase our budget by another $5,000, given the already increases we're going to be seeing. It's just $5,000 more. We haven't ever been in this coalition. We've got along fine without it. We do have on record the commission's thoughts about the heritage area. I personally don't care about the lesser prairie chicken. So I think we could get along without the Kansas Natural Resources Coalition, but I'll see what my other 2 commissioners here think. Commissioner Joe?
Well, while 5,000's not a whole lot compared to some of the other outside agency requests, the one thing that they weren't able to answer when they were here was what are the residents of Ellis County really getting for it? Mm-hmm. I can't speak for you gentlemen or anyone else, but I just don't feel that they adequately answered that question. The response given was, well, you're part of our coalition, and so, that gives you membership and representation, but gosh, we already are members of several other organizations, to include Kansas Association of Counties as an example. So if the only thing we're getting from it is to be able to say we're a part of it, I don't see a benefit directly to the residents.
Commissioner Neal?
I have received quite a few emails on that, and what I see, the public's not for it. I'm definitely not for it. I've got a brother-in-law that's worked in this field for 35 plus years, and communicating with him just for your guys' knowledge, and it's nothing that's mandatory. It's volunteer, and at this point, I'm not for it. We can spend $5,000 in another place.
Okay, so we won't budget for the Kansas Natural Resource Coalition. Okay? Any other questions regarding this, Darren?
I'll also just make a comment. I'm not going to put our county clerk on the spot since I wasn't able to get here early enough to visit with her. But come the end of the year, redistricting is a topic that is on our clerk's mind. Obviously, if we do move from a 3 to a 5 commissioner board, that will require redistricting. So we've had discussions, as well as with IT staff and our GIS staff, as to what that's going to entail. I'm sure each of the commissioners know of the state redistricting map and the fiasco that's gone through on, is it appropriate, gerrymandering and all of that. So we've tried to get that discussion off early, talked with IT staff on what it's going to take. We may be looking towards the end of the year. We may, going from that 3 to 5 to making sure that we have legal oversight and it's being done properly, have the proper software to do it, or if we have to end up having to let that out to somebody, that we may end up having to request funds. So just because the $105,000 on here, that's essentially budgeting for 2023. But when we start doing the redistricting, if we need to, there may be some fees that we have to look into contingency this year, because that was something that was 100% unplanned, and it's still undecided if it's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be costly if that is approved. There's no question about it.
So I just wanted to at least keep that in the back of your minds too, that we'll keep that in our administrator's contingency plan, that we may have to use that fund for that expense later this year.
Okay, and then our next agenda item is the 2023 draft operating budgets.
Well, I will go through somewhat quickly. I don't think everybody wants to sit through all 20 pages. I sent this to the commission fairly early last week, so that way you had a chance to see it before it actually hit the agenda, which was released on Friday. However, since it was released last week and we still had outside agency requests coming in, and a couple departments trying to get some numbers put together, there's been some things that have changed. So I'm not sure if the commission would rather me go through the same packet that you have, or that's in your packet, or the updated one that I've put together. But I can go through at least on your pages, and I can show you what the differences are.
Whatever you can enlighten us on, Darren.
Okay. Well, as the commission can see in the overall scheme of things, our revenues have increased by about 2.2 million, which is always good. It's always better if your revenues increase your expenditures, because that helps your budget out even more. However, as the commission has had many discussions with our staff, there's a lot of outside forces outside of our budget that are going to dictate what our expenditures are going to be. The fuel prices equate to hundreds of thousands of dollars and more next year. The biggest of those obviously would be Public Works. You could offset that expenditure, or you could try to reduce that expenditure by requesting the Public Works work on the roads less. That, I guess, would not be an option. Another big part of our revenue and our expenditure change from this year to next is the noxious weeds department. Gary has informed us that a majority of his chemicals are going up by 46-48%. Looks like he already headed out. But we have to buy those, and by statutory, we have to apply them, and we have to resell them at a loss. We can't sell those at a profit. So that is a big impact as well. But also the contractual services that we see throughout the county. You've heard multiple labor market discussions of where we're dealing at, what people are having to pay, the unemployment. Those contractual services that we pay throughout the county, a lot of those are seeing increases. You saw some of those with the sheriff who came in a couple weeks ago and talked about his services at the jail increasing. So you put all that into account, the additional revenues get ate up by the additional expenses that we have next year as well. However, the good news at this point is kind of what the public wants to see is where we're at with the mill levy. And I think from the projections that we're looking at with the increased valuations, but the additional revenues that we see is that we most likely will not have to increase the revenue, but we'll also be able to accommodate some of the goals that the commission would like to see, as in, I know the increase in road and bridge, as we've seen in the past, last year, their total transfer to complete all their projects for the year is $329,000. This year, you'd increase that to $800,000, and you set up two funds, one which was already there, the highway fund, but we've also created a bridge fund. So each of those get $400,000. But in this budget that you see here before you tonight, has doubled that again. So you'll have $800,000 for roads and $800,000 for bridges. It's not quite where we need to be, but if we wanted to reach that, that's going to be a multi-year goal of trying to increase those transfers. Some of the things that I'll start going through the budget on, and if you noticed in that 2023 proposed column, there are some highlighted green areas. Those are just some quick talking points that I wanted the commission to be aware of. The first one that was in there was I highlighted because it was a mistake, but I also needed to wait for the 2023 numbers to come out from the Kansas Department of Administration. But that actually goes into line item 331. That's the special Seating County Highway funding that we get from the state. So that number, actually, I got it today, and it's increased to $934,000. So from where you see here before you, that's another $70,000 in revenue that we'll have next year. As you can see, the property tax that we've collected, real estate tax, as in in this year's budget, we had $14.3 million. Next year, we'll have just over $15 million. So that's an increase in $700,000 from the valuations, and that's assuming that nothing else changes. Won't necessarily go through each department, but as the commission saw at the end of each department, I had a highlighted box towards the bottom of what their budget goal was. And those budget goals were derived from using last year's totals for contractual commodities and capital outlays, plus this year's current personnel expenses. And that's how we came up with the goal. As you can see, several of the departments, due to the cost of inflation and everything, we were not able to meet that goal. Moving down to page 109, which we just got done discussing, was the change from the 5 commissioners. So as you can see, just within that one line item of the elected officials, that'll increase, but several other line items within that will increase as well, including health insurance and retirement and capers as well. So, but when you get down to page 110, I'll remove that back down from $22,000 to $17,000 for the Kansas Resource Coalition that we won't be moving into. So there'll be a little bit of cost savings of $5,000 on the expense side there. Within our courthouse budget, as you can see, that's on Department 05 on page 110. Insurance costs have increased, as the commission is well aware. Just in Ellis County alone, over the last couple of years, we've had significant claims, than they consider large loss claims. That has increased. 2 years ago, we had over $750,000 damaged under the fairgrounds. Last year in May, we had 38 vehicles totaled in several buildings, including a couple $100,000 on the law enforcement center's roof, and skylights on this building, skylights on the law enforcement. But not just impacted on us, but that's a multi-line pool. So there's, I believe they have about 80% of the counties in the state, and majority of the counties saw those large increases in their insurance claims. So by default, I guess, our insurance premiums will increase because of that. The county clerk budget was there, no big changes. Coroner and the courts. I'll have to say Mike Smith, as being the new court administrator, has been doing a very good job and asking a lot of questions on putting together his budget for next year. Getting a lot of things fixed and updated within their court's budget for the 23rd Judicial District. IT was one department that you saw was a pretty good increase, as we've had discussions with individually between myself and the 3 commissioners, the need to increase for capital outlay to save up essentially for the future for projects that are coming. A large part of that IT increase was the transfer to reserves of just over $32,000, so that way he can fund his capital expenditures in future years. The budget itself is quite a bit higher than this year because, as the commission is aware, you approved the IT department to hire another IT staff. Emergency management essentially had no change. Health department, thing to point out here is their revenues have significantly increased by about 20%. And the biggest piece to that is on their COVID grants. Our health director continues to challenge the state and continue to find more funds for the health department. Currently, we have 2 RFPs out for the health department. One is to put that illuminated LED double sign out right outside our building for advertisement purposes, not just for the health department, but that should be on your June 20th packet, but also a remodel. Both those projects should, for a significant part, be funded by state grants that she's got through kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of these grants that are coming down from the state. But if we don't spend it, we have to give it back, and they'll spend it where they want to, so we might as well make the most of it with where we can. So there's a pretty good chunk of our increase in revenues coming from the health department on the additional grants that they have. The county administrator's budget didn't really have any changes. Public Works, as you can see on page 114, the current line item for salaries did not include any of the changes that the commissioners just approved tonight. I didn't want to put that in there since it was not approved, but that is why it's highlighted. So the next time you see your budget not your budget, but the budget for the Public Works Department, we'll try to have those changes in there. We may have some of them in by your July 25th meeting with Brendan on a one-on-one meeting, but we'll be getting there. But as you saw within that agenda item, that's going to change about $45,000 for salaries within that department. The following page, you see one of the biggest jumps in his department was line item 1364. That's going back to on page 115. Their diesel fuel. Currently, they have budgeted $425,000 this year. It's jumping up to just right at $600,000 for next year. And the trend keeps climbing on the amount that we're paying for fuel. So I don't even know if we're going to be confident that that's going to be enough to cover costs next year, but got a budget for it. So that's one of our big expenditures there is within Public Works and the fuel. And that's just diesel fuel. That's not gasoline. Register of Deeds, she submitted a budget that was flat. The Sheriff's Office on page 117, you'll see a line item in there, 1285. That's the line item that the sheriff keeps track of all the expenses where we have to house inmates out of county. As you can see, this year he had budgeted $40,000, and I believe we're over that already for the year. And with different changes, COVID changed that because they couldn't keep the same amount of inmates in the same cell. And then depending on their population, if they have females, they either have to transport them out of county or separate, because they can't have obviously males and females in the same cell. But what is also notated there, that increase of 50,000 for next year, there's two different things that we could think of in that aspect is with the list of funds that we have, or list of projects within the ARPA funds, we have money identified this year and next year to offset those expenditures over the 40,000 that he has budgeted. So we could keep that, when you visit with the sheriff, we could keep that the same essentially, and then at the end of the year, as we are doing this year, just transfer in whatever he's over from the ARPA fund to reimburse it. Or, the law is the law. They arrest the criminals. They have to house them, and they have to. It's going to be there one way or the other. So when the ARPA funds are gone, it's either we use the ARPA funds now to offset the budget, or we just start budgeting for it.
At some
because we
point,
know
it
we
comes
have
out
to.
in the wash.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the ARPA funds won't be there forever, so we're going to
Right.
have to get there eventually. So that's a discussion you can have with the sheriff when we get to that point. Of course, their fuel is increased quite a bit as well for the sheriff's office. The treasurer came in just under budget, and he is also looking at ways. He just sent me an email today. This is good news from years past. He's transferring just over, I believe it was either $93,000 or $97,000 back from the motor vehicle fund for this year. That's 3 times the amount that's been transferred in years past. Part of that's due to not having the salaries that were in there before, but he's also looking at adding another person from the county's general fund, that she's being paid out of the general fund, and transferring her over to being paid out of the motor vehicle fund. So that you might see in the future a reduction in his budget from a significant budget reduction from this year. So that way, just paying for 3 individuals out of that motor vehicle fund. But as I said, that's not in this budget yet. Noxious weed, which we've kind of talked about already. You did approve the changes to the spray technician job, so we'll get that put in there by your next time. I'm confident that probably will be in place. He'll have that position filled. It's just the time it takes to get that applicator's license for the spray technician. Unless he gets extremely lucky and finds somebody with it, which I doubt, we'll probably just have the position filled. I do know we have some internal interest within the Public Works Department for that position. Environmental juvenile intakes basically stayed about the same. EMS came in right about the same. They had just a slight increase, and the largest piece of that was medical supplies, because those always go up, as we know, with health insurance, but also their fuel prices jumped up by about 33%. The election office, Bobby's office, is actually under her budget proposal for you for 2023. The fair rental and the fairground budget came in equal. I'm still doing more work with the fair board to make sure that they have the budget submitted that they want. But to this point, the notated changes that they've asked me to put are in your budget. Buildings and grounds, the biggest piece that you'll see within that department for where the increases are at is the utilities. As we all know, the utility prices have increased, and that's where we pay a majority of the utilities for the entire county. As you can see, it's going from $284,000 to right at $300,000 for utility costs. Continue down, I'm on page 124, Communications Center, keeping that budget flat. Fair budget is flat, and then when we get into Department 97, which is the contingency transfers and subsidies, as you can see here, there's several items highlighted, and the one I'm going to talk about first is our fleet management program. As you can tell, line item 520 is the sale of used machinery. That $332,000 is the estimated amount of money that we'll have some vehicles that will be county-owned at that point, that we'll be able to sell on Purple Wave. But this is also budgeted that the 2022 F-150 model pickups that we've already ordered will actually arrive, and we'll resell them. It's kind of a mess right now in the vehicle market. We started to receive part of those vehicles, and we've actually all of the F-150s we have not received, and I believe there are 17 F-150s, but we've also already ordered the replacement for those F-150s with 2023 Chevy 1500s. So the two line items that you see is we're estimating the low end on how much money we'll get back on the vehicles, but we're estimating on the high end for what the lease payments will be. If the sale of the used machinery goes as planned, most likely we'd get the sell our equipment. If the F-150s come in, they're estimating that we'd get an extra $64,000 on top of that $330,000. So we'd be roughly $390,000 in revenue, $390,000 to $400,000. However, at the same point for the leases for next year, Chevy we've ordered the vehicles until they give us all the county and government incentive prices for those vehicles. We've estimated on the high end, but they estimate that once those incentives come down, that'll reduce the price by about 10% of where we're at. So with that, the fleet maintenance program should have somewhat of a balance for everything that we sell. Will essentially almost pay for all of our lease payments for, I believe it was 34 vehicles that we ordered in the last 2 weeks. I will say that fleet program, there is absolutely no way that we would have had county staff had time to order vehicles. The Chevy Tahoe Suburbans, Traverse, I can't remember the three, that whole entire market was open for 7 hours on one day, and it closed. So for us to identify when they open and when they close and get all the specs built in and made from what the previous model is that they're replacing would be almost impossible. A couple things that you'd see throughout the budget continuing into Department 97 is the revenues, but it's also tied with the health department as well as EMS. Now that we've had more than a year of time to collect the sales tax and the general tax, we know a better idea of how much we're getting each month, so we can forecast how much we can budget. So you can see in the general fund, Department 97, the sales tax for the general fund is increased from $55,000 to $260,000. That way we can help offset some of the costs from the outside agencies. And then a one-time transfer you see there on line item 0790 for $250,000. What that is a transfer from our Fund 16 to our general fund, and then a transfer from our general fund to Fund 6 to pay for the parking lot replacements. We had to have the budget authority in there to make it, as well as it's basically just an offset for an increased transfer to reserves. Moving down to the bottom of Department 97, as you'll see that $800,000 is highlighted in there twice. That is what we talked about a little bit ago, increasing the fund transfers to those two different funds to help repair the infrastructure in the county. And then our transfer to equipment improvement reserves is still at $2 million within your budget. That's a little bit below than what it is for 2022 here. But as the county clerk gets the final valuation notices in and we work through the rest of the year, the budget process, and we get that all inputted, and I input it all into the final budget spreadsheets, that number will be the one number and probably the last number in the budget that fluctuates. If we try to keep the mill levy flat at the 37.39 mills, and we come in just under that, we can keep our budget flat by increasing the transfer to reserves on that line item.
Okay.
Moving on, these get a little quicker since they're a lot smaller budgets. The Fund 3 is how we pay our GO bonds. That's the 2013. series bond that we had for the Highway 40 project on the west part of the county. One other thing that we may consider in the future is if you would like to, not necessarily give me the permission, but consider the option, is the building at 601 Main Street, just right down the street, the old health department, as well as the extension district office. Prior commission had mentioned in the future that once those bonds are paid off for the remodel of that building, that we approach the extension district to enter into some type of agreement to transfer ownership over to them. So that way, that's one less building our buildings and ground staff has to maintain and keep up. And we essentially, as the Ellis County government, don't use that building except for, I don't know how big of a space in the back, which is well where several garage stalls worth of space for storage. Other than that, the county doesn't use the building. So that might be something that we could have some future cost savings if the extension district would take over the building. Moving into the fire district, on page 126, revenues are about the same. Those will change once we get in the current, or put the numbers in for the state budget formula spreadsheets. But overall, in the budget itself, with the change that we're having upcoming with the personnel salaries, we had the reduction and the removal of comp time and the change from not having overtime paid as time worked. So with that change, I had to increase the budget just a little bit because our assistant fire chief was given comp time, which really hindered us. He was taking time off because he had to, but at the same point, we weren't getting a lot of the work done because he wasn't there because he had comp time. So the increase of a couple $1,000s you'll see there is for overtime charges for the fire district. And the reason I'm pointing that out separate is because, as the county commission is aware, this is completely separate taxing entity than the general fund, so it's its own revolving budget, separate than everything else within the county. As the commission is also aware, on the highlighted page, on page 126, we are looking into, and with the hiring of a new HR coordinator, looking to ensure that we're paying our paid-per-call firefighters according to the Department of Labor, and also changing the way they're paid so that way they actually have a little bit more of incentive in the form of payment. However, the amount that they're spending on fuel, some of our company chiefs, when they're out driving 300 miles on a fire call, you can imagine what their fuel bill is. They're actually giving money back to the county. So this is just trying to help offset that a little bit. And then on the last part of that budget is to put back in our budget stabilization account, so that way there is some flux in that budget, but it also helps, that's in the spending authority of the fire district, but it's actually a line item of budget that you don't spend, so that way that there is a cash carryover that you can build every year by having that in there. And then as the commission is aware, last year the fire district was over budget by just under 1% because of the fires that were held on December 1st, or I'm sorry, December the 15th. So that's the unique challenge of that budget, is you can't budget 40 hours a week for 52 hours a week. That 3-day fire just on salaries alone was over, I think, $27,000 that we paid out. So that was a big hit to the end of the year budget. Moving into solid waste, the revenues that you see there of $1.22 million, that will most likely increase coming up, not by much, but here, and then I think it's this month's agenda, you'll see an agenda item from our environmental services director to increase the fees out of the solid waste, out of the landfill. So that may be adjusted just by a little bit, but overall for their expenditures, they're almost right in line with where they were at last year. Last couple of years have been very good for the solid waste division. With everybody, we think, stuck at home with COVID, they're cleaning their houses and taking everything out to the landfill, which has increased their revenues. But essentially, that should level off. But we have had a couple good years in regards to having a significant 10% more increase in revenue than we have on the expenditures. So that helps every year on the carryover. And the last couple items are just just small non-budgeted items that we have to identify within our budget. The NG 911 fund that pays for the services, a lot of the services in the dispatch center, has just a slight decrease. Fund 154 is a general sales tax. You see, we're recognizing a little bit more of the sales tax that we're actually collecting, and those additional revenues help offset the amount of property tax that we have to collect on the county budget side. The health sales tax, as you can see, has significantly increased by about $300,000 more than we did last year. Right now, we're projected to have about $3.1 million on average for a given year. When we first started and we passed that, we were expecting to only have 2.1 million. So it's quite a bit of an increase, and some of that has to do with inflation as well. So 129 pages later, and a lot of explanations. Our next step in the process is I've sent out our capital plan to our department heads so they can start working on their capital expenditures. And that's looking out through 2027. And as the commission is aware, in years past, the farther you go out, the more negative we are in that. The bad thing is you don't know how things are going to cost 5 years from now, but I've asked our department heads to do a real good relook at our capital budgets for the coming years to help start budgeting for capital needs in the future instead of waiting till the last minute and then try to find funding for where it may come from or if they could purchase it. So I think we have a meeting actually this Thursday afternoon. Department heads, we're going to get together and we're going to work on their capital budgets to hopefully put that back into the general fund that we have here, so that way you can see where those transfers are going each year, or in each of their departments for what their needs are, matching their capital budget plans, and hopefully be able to budget more effectively and plan for the future better, which is one of our goals in our strategic plan that we identified at the beginning of the year. Is there any questions? Direction? Changes?
Can you start over at the top?
I absolutely can. I can get in more detail if you want. I like numbers.
You did great.
Let me break out that abacus. As you,
I would just like to see the department heads review their budgets and just make certain the numbers are where they want them to be. And if they feel confident that's the number they want in there, then I'll support the department head with that budget.
Like I said, the good news is where we're at. I think with the increase in valuations and increase in revenues, we should be able to keep the mill levy the same and not have to increase that.
And that's good. Commissioner Joe, any comments?
no, just to echo what you said, you know, if a department head says to us, this is what we need to provide the services necessary to keep the county running, then by God, we'll find a way to figure it out, because we have that obligation to support the department heads so that they can do for the county their duty.
I will say the department heads did a great job. I know that there's some increases to the budget, but I think everything that they've identified as what the increases are is just the realistic nature of where we're at today. The cost of fuel, the cost of salaries, retaining employees, the services that we have to provide. They're not asking for anything outside the norm from year to year, rather than just keep us moving ahead.
They just need to operate to provide services. Commissioner Neal, questions, comments?
Just a comment, it's in black and white, green, yellow, whatever, but it's all put together good. We got good department heads, and they're looking out for our community, and
I was going to pull it up here before I left, but I believe the date that I said a little bit ago is the right date, of July 25th. Got my stack of budget papers here, but I believe it was the fourth Monday in July that we're going to meet instead. That way we just had it, and we'll start at 8 a.m.
26th, I think, isn't it? Is it 25th
No,
or
it-
26th?
At 25th, it moved
25th?
from
Okay.
27, 28 to 25th.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it. If that's wrong, I'll send out an email tomorrow and make sure, but it's somewhere here within my, it is the 25th.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll welcome if the commission would like to meet with me on a one-on-one basis to go over this in more depth and detail, ask questions, or if we need to meet together with a department head or elected official, I'd be happy to set something up. So that way you're not scrambling at the last minute with other ideas or changes, so we can get them put in there and give everybody the proper time to plan.
Sounds good, Darren. Okay, are you ready for your county administrator report?
Sure. Bobby's giving me the evil eye.
No, I am not.
Hurry up, quit making me type more minutes. Did you get all that put in there for the? Two things I had sent out to the commissioners late last week, besides, or that I wanted to bring up, is the tax foreclosure sale that's coming up with Mr. Jeter and the sheriff. The Treasury has put out a tentative date of July 6th that they would like to see if a commissioner would be willing to ride around with the sheriff and the county counselor. And I believe Joe is the only one that spoke up, said that he could go, but I figured I'd just open it up for discussion if Butcher and Neil wanted to go.
I'm fine with Joe going.
They told me there'd be coffee, so happy to do it.
Okay, I will let the Treasury know on that. And then I also sent a thought out to the commission in regards to the meeting next week. June 13th, we have 20-some outside agencies coming. And as you know, some of the outside agencies have a lot of information to share, and it can become long-winded. However, they're here to propose their plan and their budget formula and their operations plan to the commission. So I gave some estimated numbers of how long it would take if you allowed a certain amount of minutes to each organization. And I thought we'd just have a discussion here to decide that tonight, so we could let the group know next week, because it will be a full chamber.
Well, Darren, I've been thinking about that, and I came kind of to the conclusion, I think we should allow them 5 minutes to present their budget and what they want to use it for. They don't really need to get into what they have done in the past, because if they've given us updates, we know what they've done in the past. And if we give them 5 minutes, that's plenty of time to tell us what they want to use their budget money for. Then it also gives us a couple of minutes to ask any pertinent questions we might have. So that's where I'm with this. Commissioner Neal?
I'm also with the 5 minute, especially the ones that have revisited us, and gives us, like I say, gives us a little time to ask them questions if we have anything. So I'm good with the 5 minutes.
Commissioner Joe?
I'm pretty open to whatever amount of time we need to allot. This is their opportunity to present, and potentially this is a good part of their operating budget for the next year. So I understand that, they might want to visit with us. And certainly, to your point, if they've done what you asked last year, when I was in the audience with the community group asking the commission, the then commission, for money, if they've done what you've asked, 5 minutes should be adequate, because we should have been getting updates through email, outside of commission chambers, individual meetings, what have you. We should have been touching base throughout the year. And I can say many organizations have done that, which has been very appreciated. So, but having said that, I'm fine with however long it may run, because that's what we're here for. So.
I guess if you're going to give them notice, then Darren, tell them 5 minutes to present their budget.
Okay. Followed by questions, some time for question and answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the commission did get the update of the, at that time, current list of everybody that has actually came back and presented over the last year, as well as their funding requests.
Yeah. And hopefully within those 5 minutes, with the, as everybody has seen that looked at it, there's a significant total difference between last year and this year.
Sure.
And with some other expenses potentially coming up, we can't do what everybody might like. So hopefully within those 5 minutes, they're able to articulate why they would want that increase.
I think, just preliminary reviewing those proposals, I'm only on board with a couple of them that have increased. That's about where I'm at. Because we just can't be everything to everybody all the time. It just isn't going to work. So, and then, I think more for your information, Joe, than for Neil, but what we do is just take those proposals next Monday, and then we will act on those at a later date, where we actually make the award for those proposals. So, questions?
And I will say that as of today, I got an email from the last agency that was behind the deadline, and we're up to almost 1.4 million, which is 300,000 over what was requested from them to be submitted. This year's funding was about 1.1. We're right at 1.4. So, more money in my pocket.
Get it out of your other pocket, too.
But I'll, as part of the agenda packet next week, you'll see an updated form of all their previous years as well as what they're requesting for 2023. And we did get a submittal from, as of tomorrow, we should have the last one plus an additional 2 that are requesting funding. So they've all confirmed that they'll be here. And I will say, I'm just giving commissioners a heads up, I'm not sure if I will be able to be here. We're taking our son to the Air Force Academy on Monday to drop him off. And I don't know if I will be back in time for the 5 o'clock meeting. So we're trying to work out the logistics of that, but that's
Should
a
be
personal
flying, so you should be able to come back.
flying.
Yeah.
Not day one.
Oh,
But
Okay.
that's all I had for my county administrator report.
Commission reports. Commissioner Joe.
Sure, thank you. Since our last meeting, I had the opportunity to visit with the sheriff and tour the sheriff's department, the jail, and get to meet some of the personnel there. Also had a public event at the library. They were kind enough to invite me, and that was an interesting community event. Attended a Kansas Association of Counties meeting, and also visited with the health department director and toured the health department just to get a better sense of what they're doing with the grant, all the grant money that she's been applying for. And then this past Friday was part of a group that met at Brief Space. They had a Grow Hayes representative, representation from the city and the county, and the topic was of housing, a topic that doesn't seem to go away, and probably won't for a while. But it was a really good exchange of some ideas and some thoughts on how to chip away at that as a community issue to come up with strategies for more income appropriate housing, and then that's what I have, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Neal.
yeah, I also went to the city meeting, Hayes here, and I also did go to the housing thing like Joe did. And I also attended the Ellis County planning that Justin did an excellent job and his staff. And also went to the, it's called the Hayes Combo Disaster Plan, which I guess in my job every day I've been trying to prepare for that, sometime a tornado coming through. And that was, I commented to Lyle on that needed to be done years ago, because it's
Yep.
not when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't, but that was very interesting. So I found that.
Okay. I have no report. Executive sessions.
Yes, we do have a couple of those tonight. For the first one, I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for 10 minutes under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meeting Act pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is pending claim, and those in attendance in addition to the Board of County Commissioners are Brennan McKay, Bill Jeter, and Darren Meyer.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
packed house waiting for this second executive session. I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for 15 minutes under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meeting Act, pursuant to the preliminary discussion of acquisition of real estate exception. The subject matter to be discussed during the executive session is possible land purchase. Those in attendance in addition to the Board of County Commissioners are Brennan McKay, Bill Jeter, and Darren Meyer.
I'll second the motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0. at 6 in the morning?
Teacher.
Let me get the ruler out.
Okay, and there's no action, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:24.